Hello, my name is Joshua Fleming, and this is my informative speech for Comms 101. And this is my audience. Today I will be talking about nursing, the foundations of nursing, and the essence of an excellent nurse. The first point I want to make is that everyone dies. But do you know who will be there when you die? I have a background in nursing. I'm a Liberty University nursing student, and I have expertise in nursing, having worked at hospitals in North America and South America and clinics, and also having a love for nursing as a whole and for the correct view of nursing. The first point I want to make to you today is that nursing has a specific kind of expertise, one that is tied in with knowing about disease, but also caring for a patient, and how this greatly differs from the care of a doctor. Nurses and doctors receive different kinds of education. When nurses go through their undergrad degree, all that they learn refers back to the patient and the clinical setting. Whereas the doctor, while they go through their undergrad degree, focuses on the sciences. And while they are in medical school, they do still focus on the sciences, and they're related to the clinical setting, but there is a disconnect with the doctor and the patient, which is the need for the nurse. Nurses have the unique opportunity because they are with the patient more often than the doctor is. They have the allowance of spending more time with the doctor because the doctor is more focused and concerned about the disease process rather than the patient. But the nurse is more concerned with the patient in general. The comparison can actually be made that doctors are much like teachers and nurses are much like parents. Teachers have a specific role and a specific purpose in a student's life, but their parents spend the majority of the time with them, and whether good or bad, the child learns the most from the parent. The greatest difference, though, in that time that the nurses are with the patient, they can assess not just the physical, but the spiritual, the social, the emotional, the psychosocial, and even the psychological aspects of the patient's life. The second thing I want to talk to you about today is the character of a nurse. The characteristics of a nurse are much different than any sort of job that there is elsewhere. Nurses have to have great humility in what they do. To do the tasks that are associated with nursing, the nurse must be humble enough to accept the tasks that they must complete every single day. Many people do not want to grow up to change dirty linens or insert catheters or wash an elderly person. But this is what the nurse has to do every single day. Not just that, but the nurse takes on more responsibilities than just the patient, him or herself, but also the patient's family and the patient's community, as well as the nurse's community. There may even be times when the nurse is actually called upon by the community in an emergency medical situation to provide care just as they would as if they were being paid. But in this situation, they are not. The last thing that I wanted to bring up to your attention today is the companionship of nurses. Nurses provide companionship much more than any other job or healthcare position there is. In a certain situation, there are many variables why somebody would come to the hospital alone. Coming to the hospital by itself is a stressful enough situation, but when you have to face it alone, it becomes even more stressful. This gives nurses the opportunity to provide the companionship that somebody may not be able to have in this certain situation. Even in life and death situations, nurses have the opportunity to talk with the patients and even the patients' families about what they've just heard, whether it may be cancer or a serious medical condition or even the death of a loved one. Nurses have the opportunity to face this life-changing moment in which patients look at life and death differently, and they get to address the spiritual needs of that patient. In conclusion, I hope that you see that nurses are completely unique to any other job or position in the healthcare system. They are essential to providing care for the patient, and the character of the nurse is necessary and is very unique than compared to doctors or the patient's family. Finally, you may not be able to choose who will die with you, but you can be the nurse that will address and even sometimes be there for somebody when they die.